What happens after we die? A mystery that has plagued humanity since the dawn of our species. A mystery finally answered thanks to the Insidious series. The truth is that your spirit goes to an extra-dimensional realm called the Further, the same place you go when you astral project. In the latest entry, The Red Door, it is succinctly described as a dark realm filled with tortured souls of the dead, and some are doomed to live the worst mistakes of their lives over and over and over for all eternity. Though mainstay of the franchise, the psychic Elise Rainier says that everyone passes through the Further eventually, hopefully on their way to somewhere better. So it sounds like if you're heaven-bound, the Further is just a place you pass through. If not, maybe you stay. Now, close your eyes, you're getting sleepy. Your spirit is leaving your body and joining me in this recap of the Insidious timeline, which will prepare you for Insidious 6, The Bleeding World. One of the recurring antagonists of the franchise is not a demon, but simply a man whose spirit turns malignant. His backstory is provided in Insidious Chapter 2, a man named Parker Crane, born May 1st, 1920, to a mother who prefers a daughter. Once Parker's dad is out of the picture, the abuse comes out in force. Parker is the name your father gave you. Your name is Marilyn. She beats the lesson into him again and again. When Parker grows up, he puts on a black dress, wig, and veil to become the serial killer known as the Bride in Black. It's stated in Chapter 2 that he killed for his mother because she forced him to. It's unclear if that should be taken literally, as in she told him to kill people, or if it simply means he became a killer as a result of the abuse. In 1953, a child, Elise Rainier, in Five Keys, New Mexico, has a gift. She sees dead people, and there are plenty of them here. They live right by the prison where their dad works, where the worst offenders are executed by electric chair. Elise's gift makes her a sort of beacon for spirits, which can be quite frightening for the uninitiated, including her little brother Christian. But Mom assures him not to be afraid. She reminds him of the whistle she gave him to blow if he ever needs her. Only when Elise talks to the ghost in their closet, Christian reaches for that whistle, but it's gone. By the way, what are you doing in the closet exactly?
I'm not in the closet.
Jump scare, high-pitched squeal, and this thing next to Christian. Editor, please freeze frame on the demon, the one wearing Peter Parker's mask from Spider-Man when he fought Bonesaw McGraw. Christian's screams attract their father's attention, and one thing I've learned from horror is that dads hate kids who see ghosts. He beats Elise and locks her in the basement. There she finds a red door with a prominent keyhole. The voice of a little girl beckons her to open it. If she does, there will be a lot more light. Go ahead, the key is right there next to the door.
You're the only one that can open the door. You are more powerful than you know. I want you to help me open all the doors.
Who wouldn't trust a creepy, disembodied girl voice? Elise inserts the key, opens the door, and a weird hand reaches out. The key attaches to one of its fingers, like the key was always part of that finger. As the door opens, Elise's eyes roll into the back of her head. Her spirit leaves her body and enters that dark realm, the Further, a place where time works differently. In fact, she meets an older woman there. Young Elise doesn't realize it, but that woman is her older self visiting from 2010. The older Elise tells her younger self, no matter what your daddy says, you have to go on doing what you do. Never be afraid of your ability. In a strange way, Elise has reached back 57 years into the past and planted the seeds that will allow her to grow up to become herself, someone comfortable and confident in her abilities. The key demon grabs older Elise. She shouts for her younger self to leave this place, and she does. Young Elise returns to her body, only to find what that demon did while she was away. It hanged her mother by the neck. Elise opened a red door, and now her mother is dead. Between the look on her mother's dead face and the words of advice from a mysterious older woman, Elise dedicates herself from then on to fighting evil things from the dark. When she's 16, Elise sees a strange woman in the laundry room. Her father prepares to beat that reminder into her again. You do not see ghosts. Fed up, she grabs him and provides a taste of her power. She shows him a vision of his own future death, and she runs away from home. Her brother Christian begs her to stay. She doesn't. In 1986, Parker Crane, secretly a serial killer named the Bride in Black, ends up at Our Lady of the Angels Hospital after attempting to castrate himself. That's how Lorraine Lambert meets him. She works at the hospital. Today, she's brought her son Josh with her, and that seems to stir Crane awake. He yells and tries to grab the boy. A few days later, Lorraine finds Crane wandering the hospital, only to learn that's impossible. He jumped to his death yesterday morning. How could that be? The truth is that Parker Crane is now a spirit wandering the further. Then something else strange. Every time Lorraine takes a photo of her son Josh, Crane appears in the background. Only Lorraine doesn't know it's him because he's in a black dress and veil. With every photo, he gets closer, so finally she calls in the help of a psychic, Carl. It turns out to be too big a job for him, so he calls in the big guns, his friend and colleague, Elise Rainier, now working professionally as a psychic. She hypnotizes Josh to learn the truth. Josh is a gifted traveler, someone who astral projects every night without realizing it. He thinks he's dreaming, but really, his spirit is wandering a realm meant for the dead. The further. A problem, because when your spirit wanders away, your body is left behind as an empty vessel. A lot of dead people who don't like being dead see that vessel as an opportunity to live again through possession. Every night, Josh sees the ghost in the black dress. They claim to be a friend, but Elise learns the truth. That ghost is trying to coax Josh further into the further, to weaken the link between his astral and physical body. Once it's weak enough, the ghost can move in, living again while stranding Josh in the dark realm. That's what Parker Crane is trying to do, steal Josh's childhood after being robbed of his own. Elise does not confirm their identity, but when she attempts to contact the spirit in the black dress and ends up with a gash in her arm, it's enough to know that spirit is no friend. To protect Josh, she decides the best course of action is to hypnotize him into forgetting about his ability. He'll forget all about his time in the further and lose the ability to travel there. Before that happens, though, while Josh is under hypnosis and in the astral realm, he receives a few visitors from the future of 2010, his older self, alongside an older Elise and Carl. They are here looking for the evil spirit's home so they can finally defeat it. Child Josh, having not yet had his memory wiped, knows where that home is. He stands up, says, "I'll show you," points the way, and those visiting spirits walk through the door. In the physical world, the Lorraine and younger Elise of 1986, all they see is child Josh talking to seemingly no one, pointing, and a door seemingly opening on its own. They proceed with erasing his memory, and over the next couple of decades, the Lambert family lives in peace. All that remains for Josh is a subconscious fear of having his picture taken. 20 years later, we reach the story of Insidious Chapter 3, a prequel to Chapters 1 and 2. In 2006, Elise loses her husband. He takes his own life. The movie never says why, other than this.
He'd suffered depression before, but I never thought.
However, Chapter 3 also introduces the man who can't breathe, or the wheezing demon, an entity which forces people to end their own lives so he can take their souls as pets. So perhaps he had some influence over her husband, or it may have been just as it seemed, a tragedy with no supernatural cause at all. After the loss, Elise visits the Further to try and contact him, but while there, the ghost in the black dress appears again and promises to kill Elise, perhaps revenge for robbing the spirit of the chance to possess young Josh 20 years ago. Every time Elise uses her ability after that, she hears that evil spirit screaming again and again that it will kill her. So Elise's father finally gets his wish. She stops using her ability. Until Quinn Brenner shows up on her doorstep. The girl lost her mother a year and a half ago to cancer, but lately she can sense her mother's presence. Sometimes she even finds things in weird places, like her diary. Quinn tries to reach out and speak to her mother, to no avail. That's why she's asking for Elise's help, and reluctantly, Elise does try to reach out, but it's the same as always. A ghost in a black dress threatening to kill her. Elise apologizes and warns Quinn to stop reaching out to the dead on her own, because when you reach out to one of the dead, they all hear you. Like that guy, for instance. Oh, you mean James Wan, producer of the franchise, director of the first 2 Insidious movies, cameoing as the theater director at Quinn's audition?
Whenever you're ready.
No. I meant that guy. Oh, the creepy guy in a respirator waving at Quinn from the shadows. Ah! Yes, in the coming days, this demon haunts Quinn with that creepy wave. When it distracts her in the road, she gets hit by a car, putting her in a couple of leg casts and confining her to a bed. Then things escalate. I know, what could be scarier than waving? How about this? Ah! A bell? Scared yet? No? Okay, how about this? That's just the boy next door, flirtatiously knocking on her wall. Really, the boy next door? The one who is currently away at Grandma's house. That wasn't him knocking. It was a ghost. Ah! Things continue to escalate. How about puddles of weird, inky black stuff? Physical violence? The demon puts her in a neck brace. One night he takes her upstairs to an empty apartment, where in the dark a woman without hands, feet, or face crawls toward her. When Quinn's dad follows her screams, he finds her alone, next to inky black footprints. The footprints lead to the window, where it appears a man has jumped to his death. When Quinn takes a peek, the demon tries to pull her out, until Dad saves her. And that's what finally makes a believer out of him. What's the deal with the demon making it look like someone jumped out the window, by the way? It might be how he took one of his previous victims. As I mentioned earlier, we'll soon learn that what the demon does is possess people, make them take their own lives, then it traps their spirits in the dark and keeps them as pets. It's basically Pokemon for human souls. Someone hand the man a Game Boy, for God's sake, and stop the madness. In desperation, Quinn's dad pays Elise a visit and begs her help. She knows exactly why he's here, because she recently had a vision of the wheezing demon targeting Quinn. So once again, she puts aside her fears of the ghost in the black dress and agrees to help. Time for a seance. She calls out to the entity which has attached itself to Quinn. Elise suddenly finds herself in the Further, a dimension that looks similar to ours, but shrouded in darkness. That's why it requires these metaphysical lanterns. Elise wanders this dark version of their apartment building and tries asking for directions, but these lost souls are frankly, they aren't very much help. One just cries, and the other parts her hair to reveal a face on the back of her head before shouting, "Get away from me!" And ghosts wonder why everyone hates them so much. Elise enters a red elevator, which takes her down to the basement, where she finds a vast darkness leading to a house. Inside that house, a woman in a chair points the way and does this.
I always wanted to know how I would go. Tell me, friend, how I meet my end.
And I think I'm ready to go home now. Elise walks in the direction she points until the ghost in the black dress appears and starts to choke her. Elise manages to wake up back in her body before death takes her. After that, Elise retreats. She cannot help Quinn without dying herself. Now they're desperate. Quinn's little brother turns to the internet and finds a couple of paranormal experts who go by the name Spectral Sightings. They introduce themselves as Specs and Tucker. Specs, played by Lee Wanell, who wrote the first 4 Insidious movies and directed this one, Chapter 3. The thing is, Spectral Sightings have filmed a lot of ghost hunting videos, but they've never actually seen a ghost, so they aren't exactly equipped for what happens that night. The man who can't breathe possesses Quinn, makes her walk on broken legs, beats them up, and puts a box cutter to her own throat. Dad saves her again. Also, Specs gets a glimpse at the back of her throat and spots an eye. Who knew possession was so physical? Ew. Finally, Specs and Tucker admit they are not qualified for this. Good thing Elise has returned. She had a little talk with her old friend Carl, and he reminded her how much she's helped people, and reminded her, don't be afraid of the ghost in the black dress.
You're stronger than her. You're alive.
Time to get rid of the foul parasite which has attached itself to Quinn. Elise explains that it's a spirit which lived in this building a long time ago, which raises the question, is it a demon or just a dead guy? Elise calls it a demon, but that could be figurative, or it could be literal, implying that in this world, dead spirits can harness evil and bask in darkness long enough to earn the title of demon. It's important to have goals in life, and in death. Elise explains that there are spirits who want to possess the bodies of the living to leave the dark and return to life. But there are worse kinds, like this one, that do not want to leave the dark. Instead, they want the souls of the living to join it in the shadows. Right now, Quinn is half a person. After the accident, the wheezing demon got half her soul. Remember that girl without a face? That was Quinn's soul, but only half of it. That's why it was missing parts. So now Elise will enter the dark, retrieve that half of Quinn's soul, and make her whole again. And Spectral Sightings will help. Tucker will handle tech, and Specs will take notes. Then, time for another seance, where Elise will enter another plane of existence.
Sorry, does this other plane have a name?
Let's call it the Further.
In the Further, Elise finds the crying woman again.
You lived in this building too. He made you kill yourself, didn't he? Where is he?
She points the way and warns.
He's got a new pet. The girl.
Quinn is his new pet.
There's no end to it. You can't even kill yourself to get away from it.
Elise assures her that she is now free, then follows the sounds of its breathing to the apartment upstairs, the one that appears empty in the real world, the one from which Quinn was almost thrown out the window. There, Elise faces the ghost in the black dress, fighting the malignant spirit by remembering Carl's words, that she is stronger than the dead.
Come on, bitch.
Next, the man who can't breathe attempts to trick Elise by taking the form of her late husband. When Jack hands her a razor and tells her to join him in death, she knows it can't really be him. Instead, she takes that razor and slashes the demon's face. He reverts to his true form, with Quinn's half-soul at his side. Elise fights him off and brings Quinn back to her body. Elise wakes up, but Quinn doesn't. The demon has her again. Quinn's dad, Specs, Tucker, and Elise all take Quinn's hand and offer words of strength. They tell her to come back, fight off the demon. It isn't enough. But one of their neighbors passed away a few days ago, a kind woman who now helps from beyond the grave. She tells Elise to check Quinn's diary. There, she finds that Quinn's mother, Lily, hid a letter. She hoped Quinn would find it on her graduation day, but wanted her to read it early. That's why Quinn sometimes found it somewhere strange. Her mother was reaching out. Elise calls out to Quinn's mother again, and she answers the call. With Lily Brenner's help, Quinn defeats the demon and returns from darkness, whole again. You'll never guess the demon's weakness. Its mask. Obviously, it needs the mask to breathe, yet it takes them an hour and a half to figure that out. Better than Batman, at least, who needed 2.5 hours to figure out Punch Bane in the mask. With that, Elise decides to get back to work. And you know what? She could use some help. She officially joins Specs and Tucker at Spectral Sightings. Except she has a couple of suggestions, like maybe they could wear shirts and ties. Back home, Elise finds her late husband's sweater on her bed, a sign from the real Jack. Then her dog growls at something in the dark, where a face faintly appears, and behind her, another face, a red face, the famed lipstick-faced demon, the main antagonist of the first Insidious, giving Elise a preview of what's ahead. But first, another prequel. Insidious: The Last Key takes place 3 years after Chapter 3, putting it in 2010, just before the events of Chapter 1. It all starts with bad dreams. Elise is haunted by what she did 57 years ago. Nothing horrible, just the kind of thing kids do. She released a key demon that made her mom hang herself. Now that past comes back to haunt her, not just in dreams, but a new case too. A Ted Garza calls about hauntings in his house. That house happens to be the one Elise grew up in. Garza recently bought it without realizing it came with a key demon. I hate when that happens. So they set off, Elise, Specs, and Tucker, to Five Keys, New Mexico.
Before we go inside, I brought some clothes for you boys. Some of it belonged to Jack, and it's very important to me.
Prequels, always solving the big mysteries, like why do they wear ties? In the house, Elise finds a whistle under the bed, the one their mom gave her brother Christian to blow if he ever needed help, the one that disappeared from around his neck 57 years ago. She also finds shadows, creaky floorboards, and a jump scare, a ghost woman who shouts, "Help her!" before stealing that whistle, the same woman Elise saw in the laundry room when she was 16. Anyway, that's enough for today. They hit the town, where Elise meets another ghost from her past, her brother Christian, and his daughters, Melissa and Imogen. He still hasn't forgiven her for running away all those years ago. Christian tells Elise to stay away from them. His daughters are more willing to listen to this sister he never told them about. Elise gives them a photo to give their dad, a photo of that whistle. Tucker printed out a still frame from the camera Elise wore when she found it. Night 2 at Garza's. Elise has an idea. When Christian yelled at her earlier, it reminded her of something.
Now, when we were children, you terrified me. You scared the life out of me with stories about a monster behind a red door, and then you opened the door and you left.
Now Elise recalls it. The red door in the basement. The entity that killed her mother came through it. That's similar to the red elevator from the Quinn Brenner case that led deeper into the Further. It seems that in the Further, if you see a red door, you are likely to find a demon behind it. That night, they hear Christian's whistle in the basement from behind a wall. There, they find a hidden door, not a metaphysical one like the red door, but a real door, which leads to a real woman, Mara Jennings. Ted Garza has been holding her captive in his basement. They set her free, which leads to a scuffle with Garza that ends with his head crushed under a cabinet pushed over by Specs. So, wait, Garza was a bad guy? Was there a ghost or not? It turns out the key demon likes to get in people's heads and make them do bad things. It made Garza kidnap a woman and lock her up in the basement. 6 decades ago, it did the same to Elise's father. It made him kidnap someone named Anna. When she tried to escape, the 16-year-old Elise caught a glimpse of her in the laundry room. Yes, that woman was not a ghost, until Elise's father beat her to death for trying to run, and now Anna is a ghost. She's the one who told Elise, help her, and blew the whistle because she didn't want Mara to die too, alone in that basement. And it worked. After months in captivity, she's free. Except the demon doesn't really care about her or Garza. Remember, he wants Elise's power so he can open more doors. Why? The movie doesn't spell it out, so we can only speculate. But if demons like to spread chaos and evil, they might like the idea of opening a bunch of red doors and setting a bunch of demons loose. So perhaps the key demon used Garza as bait to draw Elise in, and now he takes more bait. While Elise, Specs, and Tucker are questioned by the police, Christian returns to the house with his daughters to look for that whistle he felt compelled to after seeing the photo. There, Keyface grabs Melissa. He puts one key in her throat to silence her, and another in her chest to put her in a coma, while trapping her spirit in the further. Christian takes her to the hospital, while Elise, Specs, and Tucker investigate the house. They find evidence of so many other kidnapped and killed in the house, and Elise is pulled into the further. There she comes face to face with her child self. That's when she gives that advice to never give up on her powers. Keyface grabs Elise, and she yells for her younger self to leave. The demon tosses her into a spiritual prison cell, the same prison which holds her niece Melissa, and even her father, dead for decades, but his spirit still rots here in a cell, still captive to the key bearer. Now the demon offers him as a gift. He puts him in Elise's cell and gives her the chance to take revenge. She does. She starts beating him just like he did to her so many years ago, until her other niece, Imogen, calls out her name. It turns out powers run in the family. When Keyface took Elise, Imogen went after her. Tucker hypnotized her into the further, and Anna, the friendly ghost, showed her the way here to Keyface's prison. Imogen's voice reminds Elise who she really is. Hatred feeds the demon. So Elise is going to starve it. She stops the beating. So the demon goes with plan B. He takes Imogen. Now it has Imogen and Melissa captive. Elise begs him to take her instead. It refuses. It moves to strike her down until her father puts himself between her and the demon, dying in her place. Well, dying again. Now Keyface puts a key in Elise's throat to silence her. Then he moves to her chest. But first, Imogen tosses her the whistle. Elise blows it, and just as their mother Audrey promised, she comes to their aid, smacking the ever-living hell out of the monster. Audrey sets her daughter and grandchildren free. On their way out of the further, Elise, Melissa, and Imogen come across a boy named Dalton who falls off a ladder in his attic. Dalton is clearly special because he's able to see them too, even though they're in spirit form in the further. Those three spirits return to their bodies. Elise gives Christian back his whistle, and he finally forgives her. Back home, Elise dreams of the boy Dalton and the thing stalking him, the red-faced demon she's seen before 3 years ago, and she receives a call from the boy's grandmother, Lorraine, the woman she met in '86 with a son Josh who was stalked by the ghost in a black dress. Now Lorraine's grandson, Josh's son, Dalton, is having similar problems. And that leads into the first Insidious. 3 months ago, Dalton fell off a ladder in the attic of their new home, something witnessed by Elise from the further. The thing is, the next morning, Dalton never woke up. He's been in a coma ever since, and the doctors have no answers for his parents, Josh and Renee. Not only that, there have been hauntings at home. Renee heard something over the baby monitor, someone in the room with Dalton's infant sister, Callie, someone whispering, then screaming. Renee ran upstairs but found no one. That night she told Josh about it, and they were interrupted by frantic knocking at the front door, the alarm going off, and the door wide open, as though they were visited by some invisible intruder. And it's true. Only to see the intruder, you would have had to be in the further, where time works differently. Insidious Chapter 2 will reveal that in the near future, Josh enters the further, and it takes him back in time to that very moment. Yes, the knock at the front door was Josh himself from the future. He came here because a demon was trying to take Callie. In the bedroom, Renee spotted it over her crib. Only a moment later, it was gone. That was thanks to future Josh confronting it, with help from future Elise damning it to hell.
Go to hell!
We'll circle back to this moment when we reach Chapter 2 to get more context. In the meantime, you only have to know this. The next day, Renee found a bloody handprint on Dalton's sheets, and that night again came face to face with the demon that tried to take Callie. That was the last straw. They just moved here a few months ago, but clearly the house was haunted. Time to move out. So they move, and that catches us up to the night Lorraine called Elise for help. The call Elise received at the end of the last key. Lorraine has a nightmare where she sees a demonic figure standing in Dalton's bedroom. She asks what it wants, and it answers Dalton. So she makes the call to Elise. The next morning, Renee sees that moving didn't help, because she is still seeing ghosts, including this little dancing to Tiny Tim. Josh is still a skeptic, but his mother Lorraine believes Renee. She tells them about the nightmare last night, and suddenly she and Renee see it. The red-faced demon right behind Josh. Their screams are interrupted by noise upstairs, and they find Dalton's room a mess. It's been torn apart. Later that day, Elise's guys, Tucker and Specs, arrive to check the place out, and sure enough, here there be ghosts. Time to bring in Elise, and sure enough, here there also be demon. Elise describes what she sees, and Specs draws it. The red-faced demon. Her diagnosis? Dalton is a traveler, capable of astral projection. He's been doing it in his sleep, but thought they were dreams. So, unafraid, he wandered too far and got lost in the further. Now his spirit is stuck there, while his body is here, an empty vessel. An enticing thing for the dead, hoping for another chance at life. So, ghosts have been sniffing around. That's why Renee has been seeing them. It's not the house that's haunted. It's Dalton. But it's not just spirits hanging around, hoping for more life. There are other entities
who are malevolent and have a more insidious agenda.
Demons, like the red-faced one after Dalton, whose only goal is to cause pain to others. And of all the entities after Dalton's body, he is the closest. The longer Dalton spends in the further, the weaker the link between his astral and physical body, the easier it is for the demon to possess him. Josh is still skeptical. He kicks Elise out of the house, but that night he becomes a believer. He asks his son for a sign, and one of his crayon drawings fall off the wall. That's when Josh notices what the drawings are. They depict dreams where Dalton leaves his body, and visions of a red-faced man and a red door. Elise was right. So they call her back. They hold a seance to contact Dalton, which does little more than turn into an impromptu gathering of the dead, and confirm that Dalton is lost in the further, held captive by the man with fire in his face. Finally, it's time for Elise and Lorraine to admit the truth. It's no accident Dalton is a gifted traveler. He inherited it from his father. As a kid, Josh also visited the further in his sleep, attracting the attention of that ghost in a black dress, the one who appeared in his photos. They only saved him from possession by hypnotizing him to forget it all and suppress his ability. Now, time to remember. Time for Josh to travel once again into the further to get his son back. Elise hypnotizes him and sends him there. In the dark, a young boy points Josh where to go, the old house they moved out of. Inside, he finds tortured souls of the dead, some doomed to live the worst mistakes of their lives over and over, like the girl who killed her own family. In the attic, he finds a red door like the one in Dalton's drawings. It's guarded by an entity, the same long-haired fiend that tried to take Callie. Josh defeats him once Elise reminds him that he's strong. He's the one who's alive. No offense to any of the dead watching this video. I'm sure you're super strong. She's talking about, other dead people. Behind the red door, Josh finds Dalton chained up, under the watch of that red-faced demon in his workshop, currently sharpening his nails. Their chance to escape, Except it spots them. It chases them as they run through the red door into the void. Unbeknownst to them, as they make their way through the darkness, they're watched by an older Josh visiting from 2019. That'll make more sense when we get to Insidious 5, The Red Door. Renee calls out, and her voice shows them the way back home. Dalton gets back to his body, but as for Josh, an old friend shows up, the ghost in the black dress. We know that's Parker Crane. Josh and the others only know this entity as an old woman in a black dress. Josh says he isn't afraid anymore, tells the spirit to get the hell away from him. Dalton wakes up in the real world, safe and sound, and so does Josh. Except Elise can tell something is wrong. She can sense the dead in him. She takes his picture, and sure enough, the photo shows not Josh, but the one possessing his body, the ghost in the black dress. Josh never came back from the further. His spirit is still trapped there, while this malevolent entity now possesses his body and uses it to strangle Elise to death, just as it promised it would so many times before. That takes us to Insidious Chapter 2. After getting Dalton back, the Lamberts should all be relieved, but the hauntings continue. There are a bunch of ghosts this time around. One is Josh himself, trapped in the further, reaching out from the other side. Another is Parker Crane's mother, hanging around her son, who has taken residence in Josh's physical body. And there are also Parker Crane's victims, killed by him in the guise of the bride in black. While in Josh's body, Crane does his best to pretend he's Josh and convince everyone there's nothing to worry about. But a couple of issues with that. One, he's withering away, dying, a side effect of a spirit of the dead residing in the body of the living. The voice of his mother tells him what to do about that. Kill people. Kill Josh's family. It isn't explicitly stated, but I assume this is one of those kill people to steal their life force to prolong your own deals. To Parker's credit, he doesn't want to do it. His mother is clearly pressuring him into murder. The other problem, despite evil Josh trying to pretend everything is okay, his mother Lorraine is not convinced. She goes to Tucker and Specs for help, and they go to Carl for help, and he goes to Elise for help, attempting to contact her on the other side through his Ouija-like dice. She points them to Our Lady of the Angels Hospital, where Lorraine remembers that patient, Parker Crane. They find his file, and from it, his address. They head there next. At the house, it's revealed that it wasn't Elise talking through the dice. It was Crane's mom, luring them here. She tries to kill them with a chandelier. That doesn't work, and then they find a secret room filled with the bodies of Crane's victims. Newspaper clippings about the bride in black and his veil. Touching it provides Carl visions that explain everything. A boy abused by his mother turned into a serial killer, and in death sought another chance at childhood by stealing Josh's. Back home, Renee wakes up after Crane's ghost mother smacked her unconscious, and the piano plays itself. It's the song she wrote for Josh, yet he doesn't remember it. Her big clue that Josh isn't Josh. The real Josh is in the further. He's the one playing the piano, trying to call out for help. The next day, Lorraine tells Renee the truth, how Parker Crane is possessing your husband. So they leave the house, while Carl, Tucker, and Specs try to sedate evil Josh, so they can head into the further and rescue good Josh. But evil Josh manages to fight them all off, leaving all three unconscious. What happened to badass Specs, who crushed Garza's head like a grape? For shame. Carl might even be dead, because he wakes up in the further next to good Josh. Together, they search for Elise. In the darkness, they find a naked old man who warns he's got your baby and points at their old house. Now, Josh is in the recent past, where a demon tries to steal Callie. This is the scene from Insidious, where an invisible intruder entered the house. Now we see it was Josh from the future. He tussles with that demon until Elise arrives and damns it to hell. We all pass through the further eventually, hopefully on our way to some better place. Elise has been to that better place, but came back when she heard Josh calling. Elise tells him what they must do. The entity, Parker Crane, has a home in the further where he keeps his memories. They need to find those memories and use them to draw Crane back here out of Josh's physical body so Josh can take it back. But where is that home? Child Josh from 1986, pre-hypnosis-induced amnesia, has the answer. So they ask him. He points the way, and they go through the door to the basement, which leads to a red door, which leads to a battle on two fronts. One battle in the further, Josh, Carl, and Elise versus the memory of Parker Crane's mother. One battle in the real world, evil Josh taking after Jack Torrance, attempting to murder his own family, Lorraine, Renee, Dalton, and his younger brother Foster. While they hide in the basement, Dalton closes his eyes and enters the further himself to search for their real father, which leaves his physical body vulnerable. Evil Josh grabs a hammer, and before he can strike the boy, somebody stops him. A spiritual visitor from the future, an older Dalton from 2019, tackles evil Josh. We'll revisit this moment in Insidious: The Red Door. In the further, they defeat Crane's mother, which ejects Crane from Josh's body. And finally, Dalton finds Josh in the further and leads them all back home. Even Carl, who it turns out is not dead after all. A happy ending, and even happier once Carl uses hypnosis to erase Josh and Dalton's memory of all this and suppress their abilities again. Works every time. After that, Specs and Tucker continue their work, and so does Elise. She joins them as a ghost on their next case. A girl named Allison was in an accident. When she was resuscitated back to life, she brought some things back with her from the other side. Elise sees them. What did she see? What happens next with this case? The next movie, The Red Door, doesn't mention it, so for now, it's an unresolved cliffhanger. And now, the fifth entry in the series, Insidious: The Red Door. After the madness, Josh and Renee try to move forward, but this second round of hypnotic amnesia makes Josh foggy. He has a hard time managing his time or focusing on his family, and even though she knows he was possessed, Renee watched her husband try to murder their children. Foster has night terrors about it. Renee tells him it was just a bad dream, Dad would never hurt you, but it's too much for a family to bear. There's a divorce and there's resentment. Dalton hates his father. Josh tries, sometimes, but can't quite bridge the gap between them. It's 9 years after Carl made them forget the further that the family is briefly brought together for a funeral. Josh's mother. Who's that behind him, by the way? That blurry guy walking toward Josh? Never mind. I'm sure it's nothing. Their metaphysical problems begin at Dalton's first day of art school. The teacher asks them to let their subconscious draw. She counts backwards from 10, and Dalton lets the charcoal fly, guided by deep, forgotten memories. He draws a door, made red by his own blood when something grabs him, something demonic that cuts his hand. That red door. Josh thinks of it too, and he tries to get to the bottom of his brain fog. He gets an MRI, but once he's inside, a dark vision. The doctor tells him the door is open, and a dead thing crawls toward him before he wakes up, back to reality. Just a nightmare, or something more? Anyway, the doc's prognosis? There is nothing physically wrong with Josh, but does he by any chance have a history of mental illness in his family? Dalton is treated to his own hauntings too, a bloody handprint and living bed sheets. When he and his new friend Chris head to a frat party, it gets worse. How? I already told you, they go to a frat party. Okay, even worse than that. Dalton bumps into the kid who died of alcohol poisoning here not long ago. Now his ghost is stuck vomiting for eternity. What is this, a Sam Raimi movie? He demands that Dalton close the door. Does he just want some privacy, or does it mean something more? That night, Dalton does some more unconscious painting, then suddenly finds himself astral projecting, something he hasn't done in almost 10 years, and something he has no memory of ever doing. In astral form, he checks in on his friend Chris, and when he wakes up, she's at his door, wondering what the hell is going on. Proof that what just happened was real, not a dream. Josh has his own weird experience too. He plays a memory matching game by hanging photos on his window, the doctor's recommendation to keep his mind sharp. Hey, by the way, who's that? What's with that figure that keeps getting closer in the window? I'm sure it's nothing. And the window explodes. There's a guy in his room reaching out for help, chases Josh upstairs and pushes him into the closet, knocking him into the further. He finds a little box marked Ben Burton, then wakes up with it in his hands, a little box of photos. At school, Chris does some digging and finds a YouTube video from these guys, Specs and Tucker, who call themselves Spectral Sightings. They talk about astral projecting and this place called The Further. Another video from Elise Rainier provides more detail, and it all lines up perfectly with Dalton's experiences. He thinks of what the vomit ghost said about closing the door and wonders if he meant something more, especially given Dalton's drawing of a door. They go back to the frat house to try and ask Vomit Boy themselves. Dalton closes his eyes. Chris counts down from 10, and like that, he's back in the Further. Things quickly go wrong. Something chokes Chris. Something Dalton does not remember, but boy do we! The red-faced demon. Dalton returns to his body, and Chris is saved thanks to a frat boy who resuscitates her. Meanwhile, Josh does some digging on Ben Burton. Turns out it's his dad. The doctor was right. He does have a history of mental illness. Ben Burton was diagnosed with schizophrenia thanks to claims he could astral project. He jumped off the roof of a mental hospital in 1978. Now, he's a ghost. One that we saw walking toward Josh after the funeral, and one who came through his window then chased him upstairs, leading to that box. Dalton is doing some digging too. He's had a few more sessions of subconscious drawing. Now, in front of the door, there's a man with a hammer. He asks his brother Foster about it. Foster does remember something weird. They were in the basement, and Dad attacked them with a hammer. Mom always told him it was just a bad dream, and he was young enough to believe her, but now he isn't so sure. Dalton finishes the drawing, and sure enough, his subconscious has dredged up an image of Dad menacingly wielding a hammer. Is there any other way to wield a hammer? Josh pays his ex-wife a visit. He tells Renee what he learned about his dad, how he took his own life in '78 after leaving a note. This ends with me. He tells her now his dad showed up at his house, a literal ghost. Is he crazy or what? Renee has answers. She confesses it all, about the Further, how Dalton was lost there and put in a coma, the red-faced demon, the bride in black possessing Josh, making him attack his own family, and Carl making it all go away. Hypnosis-induced amnesia. They all thought erasing those memories was the right call, including Josh himself. And then Foster shows up. Dalton has been having nightmares and visions. Now he sent Foster this, a picture of his drawing. A red door, Josh with a hammer. That's when Josh and Renee know it's time for Josh to once again enter the Further. A door has recently been opened. Vomit Boy warned about it. The doctor in Josh's vision warned about it. And if that door stays open, the demon will return and wreak havoc. And it's more urgent than they realize, because just now, the red-faced demon has pulled Dalton back into the Further. First, a pit stop. Dalton ends up in the basement 9 years ago. His younger self goes unconscious as he enters the Further to rescue Dad. Evil Dad moves to attack child Dalton with a hammer, so current older Dalton tackles him. Then he ends up in chains in the red-faced demon's workshop once again. When Josh enters the Further, he visits Dalton's dorm and finds that a demon has possessed his son's body, which means the real Dalton must be lost in the Further somewhere. Except Josh can't find him until he spots 2010 Josh with child Dalton in his arms, having just rescued him from the demon's workshop. 2019 Josh heads back the way they came, and finds the workshop. There, he breaks the chains to free his son. He quickly explains, "It wasn't me who attacked you back then. These things can possess your body. Matter of fact, your body is currently possessed and trying to attack Chris. They have to get back." Together, they run back through the red door, but Red-Faced Demon is trying to break through. Somehow, they must seal it. Josh tells Dalton to go. He'll hold it shut, somehow. Dalton returns to his body, and Josh keeps holding that door. "This ends with me," he echoes his father's words, and life fades from his physical body. Until Dalton has an idea. In the real world, he starts painting over the red door in his picture. In the further, Josh sees it having an effect, paint engulfing and erasing the door. Why does Dalton painting over the door in his picture seal the door in the further? I think of it like this. Dalton inadvertently opened the door for the red-faced demon unconsciously when the teacher prompted that exercise in class. Clearly, Dalton has abilities, but doesn't fully know how to wield them. But physically painting over the door is a way of directing his subconscious to gather and point his psychic energy the right way to close that door. Once the danger is gone, Chris tells Dalton to get rid of that painting, now just a big black smudge, but he insists on keeping it. They tried forgetting once, and it didn't work. This time, they'll try to remember.
We need to remember, even the things that hurt.
In the further, Josh wanders the darkness until he quietly calls out to his father. That father arrives and gives Josh a lantern to find his way back home. Josh wakes up in the real world, and things are lighter after that. The broken Lambert family beginning to mend, they make plans for dinner soon, and an old friend of Josh's mother shows up to offer words of encouragement. Josh can't place her, but she seems familiar. He tells Josh that one day you'll get the chance to tell your mother all the things you want to tell her, and you all have bright futures ahead. Just as suddenly as she appeared, she's gone. That's because she was never really here, at least not physically. That's how it works for people like Elise Rainier, visitors from the afterlife. Finally, Josh visits his son at school. He likes his latest drawing. Josh carrying Dalton out of the darkness of the further. That's where we leave off for now, but we'll see where things go next in Insidious: The Bleeding World. Though it's unclear now if it's a sequel that'll take things further, or if it's another prequel or in-between-quel. Lin Shaye is returning as Elise, but that could always be as a ghost, so who knows? Either way, there's more Insidious content on the way, so stay subscribed and stay tuned.